I'm going to play two different clips for you, only one of which I think is an example of both coercion and manipulation. I'm going to play both clips and then we're going to talk on the other side.
Had a good time tonight. Definitely think you are lovely. However, I would love to, if we're gonna go to your place on Thursday, I mean, I am looking to have that physical intimacy, to see if like I am sexually compatible with you. I know you said I don't know about that. So like I guess my thing is like what would be the point of me coming over then if we're not gonna like hook up? If that's what you don't want, that's fine, but like I think we should just like end it here then, respectfully. Up to you. Let me know. I'm happy to if you do want me to come over, I'm happy to do so. Would love to have a good time, and we can have some wine, hang out and chill. But if you're not trying to hook up, then like I think we should just go our separate ways. Let me know.
Here's clip two.
A shocking amount of women are willing to sleep with you on the first or the second date, but they will only do it if they feel like when they go back to your place, it's not being framed as a guarantee. You want to say is something closer to like, hey, I got to go back to my place to take my dog out, but I'm really enjoying talking to you. Why don't you come back so we can continue chatting? Or, hey, I got to go back to my place because I left my stuff in the laundry machine. I don't want it to get moldy or stinky or whatever. But, like, let's keep chatting. Let's keep hanging out. The beauty of something like that is the girl kind of knows what you're doing. She also kind of knows that it's likely that once you guys go back, something's going to happen. Or at least I think that. But because of the way that you framed it, you've kind of given her an out in her head. She has plausible deniability. We can go back to his place, we can take the dog out, whatever, and then we can see what happens. That ironically makes her more comfortable to end up sleeping with you compared to if you were just to say, hey, you want to go back to my place? It's such an icky feeling for her. Maybe she was more than willing to sleep with you on that date, but now because you've collapsed it and turned it into a certainty, it's so much pressure and it's so deeply unromantic.
By now, I'm sure most of us had already heard the voice memo from the person now dubbed Voice Memo Guy. And the second video was actually made in response to Voice Memo Guy, so I think it's good to examine them both together. To manipulate someone is lying to someone to try to control them unfairly. Coercion, on the other hand, is convincing someone to choose or do something that they ordinarily wouldn't or don't want to do. Keep in mind, this is not the legal definition. I'm not interested in the hypothetical legal conversation because it is extremely hypothetical and it's also extremely irrelevant. In my opinion, video one is not an example of coercion or manipulation. Video two, however, is to me a red flag filled example of both manipulation and coercion. So now let's talk about why. Listening to the voice memo makes me uncomfortable because this man sounds extremely detached and transactional. However, that does not mean that the substance of what he's saying is coercive or manipulative. I do not think that Voice Memo Guy is trying to gain preemptive consent. I think that he's just trying to gauge sexual interest. There is no threat of consequence or a threat to her safety. This is a voice memo that was sent to her remotely. She is not in any physical danger. She could choose whether or not to respond to this message. She could also choose to simply block this person. For this to be coercion, he would have to be compelling her to sleep with him. He's not doing that. There is no threat or consequence in this scenario. The perceived consequence is that they will not continue dating, which is not actually a consequence. That is the natural and inevitable outcome of that situation. For it to be manipulation, he would have to be trying to control her. He is not. He is saying, either you want this or you don't, and if you don't, then we will go our separate ways. That is not an attempt to control. That is a presentation of a choice. He's not lying to her. There are no tactics at play. He is not misrepresenting himself. He is very clearly representing himself. Based on the context here, he is not trying to create an ironclad contract. After discussing his preferred timeline for intimacy and her saying she wasn't sure, she then invited him to her home for their second date. I'm not in any way saying that inviting someone to your home for a date implies that you want to sleep with them. Inviting someone to a second date after they've told you what they are looking for implies that you are at the very least not opposed to exploring intimacy with that person. Inviting someone to your home also indicates that you trust them. So he is not trying to manipulate her by asking her again. He's seeking clarification. If you received that voice memo, you could very easily say no by replying, no thanks, that's not what I'm looking for, or by blocking the person and never having contact with them again. So now let's get into the second clip, which to me is a very straightforward, cut and dry example of both manipulation and coercion. Let's talk about why. Number one, they are in person together, so they're already physically together. That introduces a level of physical risk that is not present with voice memo guy. So why is this coercion? Well, let's revisit the definition. She had no plan of going to his place. She is going to his place because she's been compelled by this story. Why is it manipulation? Let's revisit the definition. Woman is already in person with the man. She feels that they are building a rapport. She doesn't feel comfortable going to his home yet, but she's not ready to end the date. He is not saying, you know what, I gotta go walk my dog, and letting her invite herself. He is performing theater in order to control her behavior. This creator is insinuating that you can create a fiction in order to get the woman back to your house. Under any other circumstance, she likely would not go back to your house. She would not feel comfortable with that. Now, I am not suggesting that he is coercing or manipulating women into sex, because we're not getting to that point in this scenario. What I'm saying is this is a coercive tactic to get someone to do something that they otherwise wouldn't want to do. It doesn't have to end in sex for it to be coercion. And I think a lot of people are getting lost in the sauce with that bit. Coercion is a concept that exists on its own, independent of romantic and sexual interactions. Using a falsehood or a manufactured narrative is manipulation. Compelling someone to make a choice that they ordinarily would not is textbook coercion. So ladies, if you find yourself in this situation where you're on a date with a man, you're vibing, you're having a good time, it turns out you're pretty near his place, and then all of a sudden he has some little excuse, he needs to run back home, and you don't want to go inside and you do not want to sleep with him, my suggestion, I don't feel comfortable coming inside. I'll wait here until you get the dog and then we can go on a walk and then you can take him back in. I'll wait here while you move the laundry. You are well within your rights as a woman with autonomy to do that. If you do not feel comfortable doing something, don't do it. You don't have to be rude, but you also don't have to be overly polite. You can simply say, I don't feel comfortable with that. What I would suggest though, in general, is if you are able, don't plan a date near this man's place at all. I know that a lot of people feel like the man should travel to the woman for the first date, but for safety purposes, I think that it might be a better idea just to meet in the middle. You can let the man be chivalrous after you have determined that he's safe. Safety first, then chivalry, okay? That is the new rule.